Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a sloppy sports entertainment talk show that covers New York Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV shows, and some life lessons and some funny stories mixed in for good measure. It's hosted by Giant Mess, that's me, the real cinch Neal Lynch. On today's episode, we're going to recap the Giants' big-time victory over the Minnesota Vikings in the Wild Card round. 6 seed beating a 3 seed, no big deal. Some saying it was an upset, some saying we all saw it coming. And then we'll give a detailed preview of the Divisional Round matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Will this be revenge for Philly coming into the Meadowlands in January of 2009 and knocking off a number 1 seed in the Giants that had home field advantage? Can we get some revenge for that? And then can we head to possibly San Francisco for another revenge game? With that, let's get started. All right, we had a feeling that this would be a pass-happy game, right? Minnesota's pass defense kind of stinks. Our pass defense, not that great, not much better, but we're around middle of the pack in terms of team ranks, defense ranks. So the onus is going to be on Daniel Jones, right? First playoff game of his career. How is he going to respond under the bright lights? Big spot. And yeah, he did, big time. I don't know that you can have anything to gripe about with Daniel Jones. I mean, 300 plus passing yards, 78 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, it's just, you couldn't have asked for a better performance from him. I think he had maybe 2 throws that he would have liked to have back, maybe 3. But played a smart game, didn't turn the ball over, did get sacked 3 times, but one of those was kind of we're running out the clock situation. So let's just take the sack and we'll take the clock, if you will. I think the big concern coming in for our Giants defense was, can we stop Justin Jefferson, who had like a bajillion catches for a bajillion yards in the first game? Can we stop their screen game, which really gouged us in the first go around on Christmas Eve? And can we stop TJ Hawkinson? Well, we did 2 of 3 on that. And, that first drive was a little, concerning, to say the least. The fact that it just didn't look like we were going to stop them at all game. And it looked like Justin Jefferson was going to have another 20 catch game for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Turns out that first drive was really all that Justin Jefferson was going to give us. Adoree Jackson coming back after missing like basically the entire second half of the season and putting the locks on Justin Jefferson for the most part. And a lot of that had to do with scheme and what Wink was dialing up. They bracketed him. Last week I was like, we got to double him. If we double him and we double Hawk, we should be in a good spot, because I don't know that KJ Osborne is going to beat us. Spoiler alert. Ironically, KJ Osborne does get on does notch a touchdown, but ultimately he wasn't killing us. Hawkinson did kill us big time, and I think that's a red flag, right? Heading into the Eagles game and down the stretch, if we're going to make a run here, are our linebackers or our safeties going to step up and cover these tight ends? Because San Francisco has a pretty decent tight end in George Kittle, and Philadelphia has a pretty good tight end in Dallas Goedert. So I think if we're going to got on defense, it's going to be because we can't cover tight ends, essentially. So, but didn't get a ton of pressure. I thought it was interesting that Wink kind of flipped the script and surprised a lot of us by not blitzing a lot and relying on the front 4 to get the pressure. And I think Dexter Lawrence did a pretty good job. I think Leo did a pretty good job in getting pressure. I think Kayvon's getting held every play. So, and they're not calling it. On the one Vikings touchdown, he was just getting, he was in a sleeper hold. Like, I don't know how you get out of that. You get a reverse into a camel clutch for, four leg lock the leg. Wow. My brain is glitched. Cool. So yeah, Kayvon's getting held every play, but that should show you that he's getting pressure and making a difference. And I think Dexter Lawrence is just an animal. Sexy Dexy is just a beast. And Leonard Williams playing through pain and playing through a neck injury and giving us some pressure as well. So those 3 guys have a lot of confidence in to get pressure. It sucks that we lost Azeez Ojulari so early in the game. to what ended up being like a thigh contusion, which I think the same thing happened to Jason Pinnock later in the game, but it was like an deep ab bruise. And like, you think to yourself, bruise, like how bad could it be? But like that bruise gets deep enough, it fucking sucks. It's a indescribable pain, and it really limits your mobility and your just a whole bunch of things. So it sucks losing Ojulari during the game, because I think that really put a crimp in our ability to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. However, I do think the remaining three guys, did as much as they could to at least make it life uncomfortable for Kirk Cousins. They didn't get a sack, but I do think you got some hurries and some pressures and some knockdowns. And of course you have that horrendous roughing the passer call on Dexter Lawrence, which I know I'm biased, but like that is for sure the worst roughing the passer penalty I've seen in a very long time, if not ever. I mean, it's not like he hit him late and he slung him to the ground, but it's not like he fell with all his weight on him. That was the first one that I've seen where it's like, oh, so it's because he threw him to the ground, but like Kirk's trying to throw the ball. Like we're trying to make a play here. Play tackle football. Ever heard? So Wink didn't go with a whole lot of design blitzes. He played a lot of quarter package, which is like 7 defensive backs or something like that. So you have the 7 DBs, like you have it was pretty much all game. Adoree', Fabian, Love, McKinney. Those are kind of your 4 starters. And then he was mixing in Darnay Holmes in the slot. And then with a little Tony Jefferson or Dane Belton. And I don't know what you're calling Landon Collins these days, but he's a strong safety or a linebacker. And then you have the 4 across the front with maybe a linebacker or another safety. It's just interesting approach, and I think it kind of paid off. I mean, it definitely didn't look that way for the first 3 quarters of the game, but when it mattered and they had to put the locks down and put the clamps on, it worked. So Xavier McKinney played a pretty decent game. I like what we saw out of pretty much all our DBs. I think Jalen Smith played okay. But I think that's. I was expecting a little bit more out of Jared Davis, and I think he only had 2 tackles. But you can see, like, he's new to the system. That's going to happen. I mean, they kind of took the leash off against the Eagles the previous week, and they were just like, "Hey, just make plays." And then this week, it looked like he might not have been as with it as he was against the Eagles. But you have to feel good about what we did in the secondary. After that first drive, I think Adoree' Jackson settled in. They bracketed Jefferson. I think we probably should have tried to double Hawkinson a little bit more than we did. But that was rough, because it just like, really happy to see that Justin Jefferson is not going to be the one that kills us this go around. Good to see that we're stopping the screen game, but that was tough to watch. Hawkinson just run amok. So defensively, I think we're coming into our own. Can't overstate how big of an impact Xavier McKinney and Adoree' Jackson made coming back, from injury. They're probably, they're definitely not at 100%, but you can see they're still giving us flexibility options. McKinney's not going to get beat very often. And any catches, I think this was important. Any catches that were made, people getting popped right away. There's someone there to make the tackle right away. And I think that's what's so important. Adoree' Jackson is a very underrated tackler. I don't think he gets mentioned enough. I think we think of a CB1 as like a ball hawk, knocking passes away and, disrupting a wide receiver's pattern, and maybe he does that to a certain extent. But the thing that stuck out to me is that Jackson is just flawless, impeccable when it comes to tackling. He just doesn't miss tackles, and I think that's huge. And the team as a whole doesn't miss tackles, which I think is so important, and it gets overlooked sometimes when you don't have missed tackles. But when you do, it's like, let's make a tackle. So, it's kind of one of those things where an unsung feat, if you will, but I'm singing it. I'm singing it from the hilltops. So, Darnay Holmes, 2 tackles for loss. I think you don't typically think of him as like a physical guy, although he does draw a lot of fat. Oh boy. Whoa. Watch yourself now. We're not in Britain. He does draw a lot of flags with his physical style play. I think Commanders fans will have an opinion about how he plays the game. But I'd rather have someone that's physical that might draw a flag here or there than someone that's soft and that's going to let something happen. And, so I think it's good to have Darnay balling out. Didn't see much out of Landon Collins. Didn't really see much out of Jihad Ward. I think Jihad Ward is a vocal leader, someone in the clubhouse that is, not going to let people slack, I think, maybe. And great depth piece that I think, not going to show up in the stat sheet maybe, but definitely a solid contributor. Ryder Anderson, I think that's his name. Maybe I was hallucinating, but he was getting blown off the ball during runs. And I feel like it's weird that Minnesota just abandoned the run so often. I mean, Dalvin Cook had 15 carries for 60 yards. It's 4-yard average at a long of 11. But it seems like if you have a team like the Giants, and it's reminiscent of what happened in Super Bowl 25, Giants-Bills, where it's like, all right, Belichick's like, you know what? We're going to rush like 2 guys, 3 guys maybe, and we're going to drop everyone else in coverage because we know the Bills are pass happy, and like we're going to make Thurman Thomas beat us. And they almost did with Thurman Thomas coming down the stretch, because it was like, all right, you guys are going to just go play back with all these DBs. We're just going to run. And that's what the Bills did. And it worked. It's just their kicker missed the attempt. Wide right. So yeah, I interesting that they would abandon the run. Interesting that on like a 3rd and 1, they would decide to do like a trick play. It's like you have Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's a pretty good running back. You lack that much confidence in your running attack that it's 3rd and 1, you're going to go shotgun and listen, the Giants did it too. 3rd and short, 4th and short, where they're operating on the shotgun. It's just like, dude, just get under center and just go for it. But yeah, that was a weird trick play. I think the Giants won this game, but the Vikings definitely lost it in a lot of respects as well, like making just bonehead decisions and mistakes. I think everyone's criticizing Kirk Cousins for that, the last play, the last Vikings offensive play where it's 4th and 8 and he checks down to the tight end, because he did have, I think it was Osborne coming across the middle beyond the sticks, and he would have been open, and it would have been a completion, a first down. The play before, Cordell Flott making a play, he doesn't have a ton of numbers on the stat sheet, but it's like, that's a huge pass breakup, huge pass defended. So I think it's nice to see his development and him coming along as we progress, and nice to see that we didn't have a ton of injuries. Obviously the Pinnock injury sucks, but it looks like he'll be back for Philly. I would think that Azeez can rally and make it back for Philly. So it's not like we didn't lose a ton on defense. Offensive side of the ball, I mean, that was Daniel Jones' coming out party. National spotlight, postseason play, and he really just has silenced a lot of the detractors. He really has. I mean, I don't know that 24, 35, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was on point with almost all of his passes. He knew when to throw the ball away. I mean, Darius Slayton, rough game. I think he had, 4 catches for 88 yards. He had that long of 47, 8 targets. He drops the one crosser over the middle that would have been like a huge gain. It would have basically cemented the win. That was the final nail in the coffin. I mean, if he makes that catch and gets the first down, the game's over. And he drops it. There are a lot of people saying that a wide receiver 1, and they're not referring to him as a wide receiver 1, would have caught the deep ball in the back right corner of the end zone over the cornerback. That's a tough play to make, but yeah, he probably could have made that. So rough day, but I mean, you can see the potential. Like, it's just, and that's the frustrating thing about Darius Slayton, is that he is quick, he's fast, and when he gets the ball, he's more times than not, he's going to pick up some yak, but it's catching the ball. Easy catches too. Like we're not asking you to make a crazy adjustment on the fly or, demonstrate body control or anything like that. I think we can live with that kind of inability to make a big play in the end zone, but we cannot live with these easy drops. We just can't live with that. It didn't come back to bite us, but it certainly felt like it was going to come back to bite us, didn't it? That huge drop. It's like this game, in many respects, mirrored the first game on Christmas Eve, because it's like the Darius Slayton drop is kind of like the Richie James drop, and then the Dexter Lawrence roughing the passer is like the flag on that final Vikings drive, which is like, we're just these mistakes and big moments that it's not like we've been making them all game. It's just like a lapse in judgment or whatever. I don't blame Dexter Lawrence though. I mean, like, that's just not roughing the passer, so I don't put that on him. But goddamn, it really feels we have Daniel Jones as our franchise quarterback. It really feels that way. It feels like they're going to sign him to a big, beautiful contract. They're going to sign Saquon Barkley to a big, beautiful contract, and we're going to have our QB and our running back locked up for at least the next 5 years, which is great. And then you start adding little components and elements around them, little variables that are just notches above what we have now, which I don't think we're that far off. I mean, like Isaiah Hodgins, 8 catches, 105 yards and a touchdown. He had a long of 32 on 9 targets, 8 of 9 catch rate. I mean, that's like awesome. The guy does not typically drop the ball. I think the one incompletion, it was like Jones just missed it. It just overthrew him a little bit, was out of his reach. But, you see, it's just nice to see a receiver with awareness, dude. And the fact that he's playing on a bum ankle. I don't know if you saw that photo, but like swollen, bruised ankle coming into the game. He's like, apologies if I wasn't running as fast as I usually do. This is what I was dealing with. And it's like, holy crap. And, everyone has their bumps and bruises, but like, it's just gutsy, tough, gritty. Kenny Golladay is supposedly healthy and can't do what Isaiah Hodgins is doing. So, did give us one hell of a block though. I think it's like, if we can get Golladay, just like, I think that's where he's at right now mentally. He's like, I'm just so fucking pissed off at my situation that I'm going to take it out on whoever's in front of me, and I'm here for it. So, but getting back to Hodgins, talk about the situational awareness. How many times have we seen Giants receivers, on like a third down, not go to the sticks, come up short of the sticks, and then they're going sideways or they're going backwards? And I mentioned this last week, but like, he just has this amazing, and Richie James too, the ability to catch the ball and immediately get upfield. Like, and it's the difference of a first down and a punt every time. It's like literally 1 to 2 yards, maybe 3. And it's just, it's refreshing. And it's really good to see. And maybe that's, and I think you could probably pay some respect to the coaching. The Vikings got outcoached. I mean, I don't know how much more you need to see out of Brian Daboll to see that he's coach of the year. And I have the utmost faith in Mike Kafka, utmost faith in Wink Martindale. They just fucking know how to call a game. They know how to make adjustments on the fly at halftime, and they're out coaching these motherfuckers. That's all. That's what it comes down to. Daniel Jones, 17 carries, 78 yards. I'm not a huge fan of this like power sweep thing they got going on. I think they ran it 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, I mean, I understand you want to be confident, and you want to be aggressive and assertive, and you want to play smash mouth football, ground and pound. I get it. That is like so telegraphed, it's so obvious, and it's like, oh, all right, we're a little too full of ourselves if we think that's gonna work. It didn't. I don't think it really worked the way we wanted it to, but I mean, all the pundits, all the experts, all the guys who break down film, they've all pointed out how Daniel Jones looks different, more confident, more decisive, and making the right decisions. Like the past 3 weeks that he started and played versus the first 3 weeks he started and played. I mean, that was the main gripe, right? That we had was, look at Jones. He's running into sacks. He's pulling the ball down. He's not keeping his eyes up, not picking good lanes, and, throwing the ball away when he doesn't need to, not seeing open guys. There's none that's just not happening the past 2-3 games that he started and played. It's just not. He's making quick decisions, and he's saying, and he's saying, okay, read 1's not there, read 2's not there. All right. And he picks the right lane to run as well, which I think is key. So, and I know people wanted us to run more with Barkley. He only had 9 carries, 53 yards, and along with 28. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, that first rushing touchdown he had was like poetry. It was a work of art. It was a masterpiece. I mean, there were just offensive linemen throwing guys aside, and Barkley didn't need to make too many moves, and he just cut through the defense like butter. It was just like, it was so smooth, and that, to me, when I saw that run, that touchdown, I was like, we have a ball game. Like, we're gonna fight to the end. Like, this is not a fluke. We got things under control, and I feel good about our prospects. His second touchdown was just straight beast mode, dude. Like, just muscling into the end zone. I think Dalvin Tomlinson, former Giant, who's like 6'4", 300, he went for a ride. I mean, it's just like insane, the kind of power that Barkley has. And I mean, night and day when he is fully healthy, night and day when he's got the neck, when he's got the shoulder, when he's got an ankle, he's not the same explosive player. I friggin' love that spin move he has. He only really breaks it against the Vikings, which is interesting, but when he does it, it's just like, oh my God, how do you tackle that? I don't know how you tackle him in general, but like when he's spinning like that, it's just, it's a work of art. So, only 9 carries, but like the pass was, I can understand if, we only threw, if it was like the Tom Brady and the Buccaneers throwing 66 times because they don't have they're down multiple scores. They don't have a friggin' run game to speak of. We were having tremendous success through the air. So, use the run sparingly, efficiently, and effectively, which I think we did to a T. And Matt Breida, I mean, Jesus, I know you look at the box score, 3 carries, 8 yards, but that 3rd and 1 on like pony package jet sweep type thing, and he had to break like 2 or 3 tackles just to get a yard, and he got it. Like, I heard someone compare it to the Mark Ingram catch in Super Bowl 25. I wouldn't go that far, but that's a big, big moment in that game. You know, they don't pick up that first down. It's it could go sideways. So really happy that Matt Breida is with the Giants. I think again, he's not putting up these eye-popping numbers that are gonna jump out at you, but he's just a good depth piece, and he gives you extra versatility and extra threat. You know, I think I forget his name, but he was talking about the pony package where it's both Breida and Barkley on the field. It's a package that I friggin' love. It's magical, my friends. And I'd like to see more of that. They did a lot more, I guess they call it 11 personnel, spreading it out. And I like that. I mean, there wasn't a ton to dislike in this game from an offensive standpoint. I think everyone, did their part and looked good, I mean, people that are honestly, it's, I feel bad for Vikings fans. Like I do. And I'm sure there's none of them are listening to this or watching this, but I do think that, I do feel for them because it's been a long time since they've gone to the Super Bowl or had a postseason run. I think 98 was probably the last time they had a deep run. And, they ended up losing to the friggin' Falcons because their kicker stinks. Kicker stinks. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, but that's besides the point. I know that some people are thinking, I mean, 8 game-winning drives, 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. That was double the nearest team, and I think the Giants were next with like 4 game-winning drives or 5 game-winning drives and fourth-quarter comebacks. But it was interesting coming to this game. Like it was this feeling that everyone thought they were fraudulent, that they were frauds, mostly because of their defense, So it's like if their defense gets better, they're right back in the thick of things. The problem is, I think that they are going to run into some salary cap issues. And so I don't think they're going to be able to fortify or bolster that defense like they should. I still think they're a playoff team. It's just I don't know that they're going to have the ability to improve their defense. I mean, their offense is like, Kirk was 31 of 39, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, 112 rating. Wasn't sacked, didn't throw a pick, although, I mean, Jesus, can we please hold on to an interception? Now, I know that's a tall order, especially from Julian Love, who's diving to make a stellar interception. Tough play to make. I get it, but like, can we just hold on to one interception? I honestly thought we were going to get 2 or 3 in this game just because, we've played them once. We've got them on tape. We know what to expect, and Kirk's bound to make 2 or 3 bad throws, but we couldn't really take advantage of it. But I mean, yeah, Hawkinson, 10 catches, 129 yards on 11 targets, dude. Just unstoppable. Unfriggin' stoppable. But, Jefferson, 9 targets, 7 catches, 47 yards, averages less than 7 yards a catch. You think 7 receptions, that's a lot, but 47 yards is not a lot. Less than 7 yards of reception. I want to say that's like one of the best productive shutdowns we've seen of Justin Jefferson this year. I think the Packers might have done a better job in one of their matchups with them. But I mean, I think that's the key, because I don't know that Adam Thielen's really going to beat you. I don't know KJ Osborne is really going to beat you. Dalvin Cook, 7 targets, 6 catches, 10 yards. I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for. You do not allow that screen to develop, and if he does make the catch, you're all over him like white on rice, baby. Still having some issues with Danielle Hunter. I cannot stop the guy, and that's really the other major takeaway from this game is that I think Evan Neal still problematic, right? He's still not giving you the kind of protection or performance that we're hoping for from a top 10 pick, draft pick, first round pick. But, they say the same thing about Andrew Thomas, and he's blossomed into an all-pro. So I think, the feeling is that Evan Neal can be right there where Andrew Thomas is. And then, it's like, can't get much better than that, dude. So, that's the Giants win against the Vikings on the road. Our first postseason win since Super Bowl 46. The curse of the boat trip is over, right? I guess. Now that we've won a postseason game since that happened, like we don't talk about the friggin' boat trip anymore, which is fantastic. And now we can set our sights on the Philadelphia Eagles Saturday night, 8:15 p.m. at the Link in Philadelphia. I feel really good about this game. I know that third time's a charm. I really do think that. People are making comparisons to the 07 team that lost twice to the Cowboys in the regular season. We go to the number one seeded Cowboys in Dallas when we pull off the upset. Is something similar in the works here? It's possible. Jalen Hurts had a week to rest, so he's a little bit healthier than he probably was the last go round, and he's also probably going to put it all out on the line in this game, whereas I don't think he was willing to do that in that kind of as meaningless game as you can get. And I know it was for the number one seed, but it's like, they probably had a feeling that they could turn it on when they needed to. But you have to wonder if he's going to be a little gun shy, right? If he's scrambling and running for a first down and he sees guys bearing down on him, is he going to try and go the extra mile and try and pick up the first down, or is he going to slide short, or is he going to bounce out of bounds? And I think that's really the going to be the focus of a fully healthy. So this is what gives me confidence. A fully healthy Jalen Hurts would make me pause and say, maybe he's just too much for us. But the fact that he's banged up, he's dinged up, they might have Lane Johnson coming back from injury, even though he's needs surgery, but passed on it so he could play. I think that's actually a boost or benefit to us. I don't think he's going to come out there and play anywhere near where he usually can. So I do think we get more pressure on Hurts, and the benefit of him being a little dinged is he's not gonna be as confident in his scrambling abilities, and maybe not do as much damage. So whereas the focus versus the Vikings was on Jefferson and Hockenson, it seems like the focus here would be we definitely need a spy on Jalen Hurts. Who is that spy going to be? Is it going to be Landon Collins? Is it going to be Jared Davis? Is it going to be Micah McFadden? Is it going to be Jalen Smith? Who is that spy going to be? Do we have trust in Kayvon Thibodeau to have containment? Because I think that earlier in the season, we saw a lot of like hesitancy from him, a lot of like double takes, a lot of stuttering. Other times he was being overly aggressive and not playing containment. I think that we've seen less of those errors down the stretch, and we've seen a more assertive style of play out of Kayvon. But like, is that gonna, like, are we gonna get that same style of play in this Philadelphia game where I'm sure emotions are gonna be running very high. I think we can put out a similar performance defensively in the divisional round game that we did in the regular season finale. I think that Wink has unlocked something with that scheme, and they're not going to score a ton of touchdowns. If they're scoring touchdowns, we're losing this game. This is not like a Vikings situation where it's like we can go touchdown for touchdown. I don't think that's the case. I think if we can hold them to a similar performance as to what they gave us last go round, the regular season finale, where, they kick 4 or 5 field goals, I think they lose this game. I really do. But we can't, we're not going to be able to, if I forget what the line is, but like if it goes over, we're probably screwed. Like if we can keep it in that 20 to 22, 23 range, I think we have a shot to win. If once it starts to get to 24 and above in terms of Eagles, point total, I honestly don't think we're gonna see a dub. I mean, this Eagles offense and the Eagles defense, like both just out of this world, dude. And they didn't look as killer heading down the stretch. They weren't as deadly, right? I think you can see the games where it's like they're unstoppable, and AJ Brown's catching deep balls left and right, and Devontae Smith is just thrashing and slashing, defenses across the board. And then Miles Sanders is doing his thing. But second in points scored, third in points per game, second in total yards, fourth in yards per play, second in first downs, ninth in passing yards, fourth in net yards per attempt, second in yards per completion, ninth in yards per game, sixth in QB rating. It really is a testament to, everything, really. I mean, the offensive line, I think, is an issue for the Eagles. It's been such a stalwart for them for so long. But I do think with the Lane Johnson injury and having some injuries along the front there, and having our front be as close to healthy as you can be as a unit, minus Ojulari, we'll see how he responds, to that contusion. But you can see how much better the Giants' defense is when our front four is in and starting and healthy. Ojulari, KT, Leo, and Sexy Dexy. Like when we have those four in and full steam ahead, I think we can get to Hurts multiple times. So interesting to see if Wink will kind of do what he did in the regular season finale, where he did bring a certain amount of pressure from all kinds of areas, or if he is going to continue with this quarter coverage. We're going to drop 7 DBs in coverage and see if our front four can get after it. Maybe it's a mix. But it was the lowest percentage of blitzes or something like that, that he had against Minnesota. So maybe it is a case of like, well, we're not going to, if we apply pressure to Jalen and he gets out of the pocket and scrambles, he's going to gash us for chunks of yards with his legs. Maybe we sit back, right? You have that 5 to 10 yard layer of DBs of coverage, then you have the 10 to 15 and the 15 to 20. You just have those 3 layers. And it's like, as soon as he takes off from the 4-man pressure front, we just collapse and make the tackle. Because I don't think he didn't do a whole lot of he didn't have a whole lot of carnage in that regular season finale. It wasn't like he was running left and right, picking up first downs. So I think if we can keep him in that kind of stat line of like 9 carries for 17 yards, I think we're gonna come out with the dub. 5th in total rushing yards, 1st in rushing touchdowns, but 8th in fumbles. And we have a knack for knocking the ball loose. So I have a feeling that we might get a fumble recovery or 2 in this game. I have strong vibes about that. Where their Eagles offense is 4th in scoring percentage, 9th in turnover percentage, right? So they don't really turn over the ball that much. If they do, it's via fumble. 6th in interception percentage. That shows you that Hurts is taking care of the ball, not making bad decisions. 9th in sack percentage, and so that to me indicates that I have a feeling that that's not going to come into play. I think that they're going to give up a few sacks, 2, 3, maybe 4 sacks in this game. 2nd worst net yards per punt, and 8th worst inside the 20 percentage. So I bring that up because I think it is important. Special teams is important. It's a part of the game, complementary football. We have a sucky punter. He didn't have to punt much against Minnesota. Only 2 punts or something like that. But Philadelphia's, I think the Eagles punter stinks more. And in a close game, in a tight game, divisional round, little things matter. And sometimes it's the little things that make the difference. And I think that could be the difference in this game where it's like, we're downing it inside the 20. They're not, and if it feels like it's going to be a field position game, it's not going to be this kind of run and gun, explosive offensive game that we saw against Minnesota in the wild card. I think it is going to be field position game. And so every yard matters. And that's where I think we have this slight advantage is our punter doesn't suck as much as theirs. Philly is 4th in third down percentage and 4th down percentage. All right, so they convert. So those will be important downs. Third down. We need to stay out of third and shorts, third and mediums. Let's get those third and longs, baby. And they're 3rd in red zone percentage. So let's keep them out of the red zone. And I think we did a pretty good job of that in the regular season finale. I don't think they really saw I think they made they were 1 for 5 in the red zone, I want to say, in that game or something like that. But let's just let's keep them outside the 20. Let's let them kick all the field goals they want. Philly's also 4th in yards per drive and 3rd in points per drive. So, yeah, I mean, they're a dynamo. They're a Tyrannosaurus Rex on offense for most of the year, but I think they've lost their luster. And I think our defense, you think about the first 2 times they faced us. The first time they faced us, we were banged up. We were injured. No Adoree Jackson, no Xavier McKinney, maybe no Ojulari. I don't even know if we had Leonard Williams. Like, we had a lot of guys out in that first game at home where we got our doors blown off, 48-22. Regular season finale, we didn't start our defensive starters, and yet we still put out a pretty good outing. This is the first time that Philly is going to see our normal, intended, as God intended, starting defense. I think that means something. And I think that's going to cause some issues for their offense. Not having seen all those guys on the field operating as one in Wink's scheme as Wink intended. And that's why I think the Phillies offense is going to struggle. You hear it here first. Now, defensively, Phillies defense, they're 8th fewest total points allowed. Third, I mean, this is where this will be a huge test for Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and that Giants offense. Humongous test. Because while I did have a lot of confidence in the Giants defense heading into that Vikings game, the wild card game, and they, to a certain extent for most of the game, kind of came up short in terms of expectations. I really thought that Giants defense was going to dominate the Vikings offense, or at least hold them in check a little bit more. Like I said, they made plays when it mattered. And so they stepped up and shut her down when they needed to, which we haven't been able to say that much about the Giants defense in the past however many years, 10, 12 years. So I have more confidence in the Giants offense against this Eagles offense, a Giants defense against this Eagles offense. I do think that, that was their first game kind of back as a unit, as a complete group in a long time. I think now they've got the kind of the rust off. Dory's got this, it dusted the rust off, and Xavier has now gotten to a groove. And I honestly think that the Giants defense will show up and show out, and they will keep us in this game. Giants offense has been rolling, but I don't know that we have. This is a whole new bag. I mean, the Eagles defense is just tenacious, dude. Tied for the fewest yards per play, 3rd most forced turnovers, least passing yards allowed, fewest net yards per attempt, under 5. Tied for the 3rd most interceptions, the 5th highest interception percentage. 7th highest rushing yards per attempt, though. So I think the pass defense is just, 70 sacks, dude. They're first in sacks by 15. 70 freaking sacks, dude. And we have 3 to the friggin' Vikings who are not in the top 10 or top 15. I don't know if they're top 20. So that's going to be an issue. I don't know that we're going to have the ability to dial up these long developing deep crossers to Slayton and to James and to Hodgins. I don't know that we're going to be able to do a lot of double moves. As Dable mentioned after the home loss, the blowout loss, like we had some plays that were there. It's just Daniel didn't have the time to see him. And so that's going to be, so do you go into this game thinking, all right, well, we'll just correct those mistakes and try again with these long developing double moves and whatnot? Or are you going to try and nickel and dime and pick them apart underneath, which kind of caters and plays into what Philly has been able to develop on the defensive side of the ball. So, but 7th highest rushing yards per attempt. So is this a case of, hey, we like passing on first down. Let's continue to pass on first down because we've had pretty good success there. And let's get into a 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, and let's run the ball for 2-3 yards. And that sets up a 3rd and short. And if we can do that repeatedly, great. I mean, you would love to see another drive like we put together against Minnesota. I mean, I can't believe that we put together on Christmas Eve a 19-play drive that was like almost 10 minutes or something like that. Was 10 minutes off the clock. And then we put together a 20-play drive that was 11 minutes off the clock. Only got a field goal, and that was like ultimate blue balls. I think that was like, oh, well, that's not a good sign because like you need to punch that in and get points, more points than 3. So that was kind of a win for Minnesota there. But let's run that again. Let's get these double-digit drives and keep that Eagles offense off the field. It does wonders for our defense too. I think you saw. I think, we went up 17-7 after the 20-play drive, and then they did come back and score the touchdown. But I think it does wonders for your defense. 6th lowest scoring percentage, 3rd highest turnover percentage. Yeah. They're gonna we just got to hold on the ball. Just do not turn over the ball. I think Daniel is in a much better headspace. I think he feels a lot more confidence in his receiving crew and in his offensive line. I think Kafka feels more confidence in him and is tailoring, opening up the passing game a little bit more for him. I just don't want to see too many designed runs for him because I don't know that that's going to work. I think what works for Daniel in this Giants offense is quick read, scramble, either throw on the run or pick up yards with your feet. Lowest air yards per attempt, tied for the 2nd lowest yards per completion, lowest yards per game, and 3rd lowest QB rating. This Eagles defense is just unbelievable, dude. But, may I remind you, the Giants went into San Francisco with Eli Manning in January of 2012. And they faced the 49ers defense that was like, I want to say tops in the league, at least tops in the NFC. And we threw the ball so many goddamn times against that against that San Fran team. Not a lot of deep balls, kind of picked our spots here and there. A lot of short passes to Victor Cruz, let him catch the ball and let him make a move. Almost feels like maybe that's something similar in the works here, where it's like, let's just get the ball out of Daniel's hands and let's get positive yardage. Let's minimize tackles for loss. Let's minimize sacks. Let's minimize those kind of opportunities and see if it pays off. They're 2nd in QB hits, 1st in tackles for loss, 1st in sack percentage by 3 full percentage points, which is unheard of. And they're tied for 6th in points per game, 6th fewest points per game. So, yeah, that's the challenge ahead. I think if, like I said, a fully Jalen Hurts scares me more I think the fact that he's got a little bit of, he's not feeling himself as much as he usually is going to be an issue. I think the fact that we're fully back and healthy on defense is you're gonna see a huge difference there. It's gonna be a field position game, gonna be low scoring. I think we're gonna hold them to field goals. We might give up a touchdown. Touchdown. That's fine. Get it out of our system. But for us, I'm more curious to see how our offense is going to handle that defense, because you saw what happened with Davis Webb. It was like he just would run backwards 20 yards and then throw it to Matt Breida for a yard. And it's like, that's not what we're looking for. But I would like to see us, Kafka and Daboll, I don't even know if they need to do this, but go to Daniel and say, like, pull the trigger. You have a tight window, just throw it. I don't think you need to overthink it. I think you look for the mismatches. Hopefully you design and scheme to get those mismatches. I'd like to see us use Saquon Barkley more in the passing game. I've been saying it for so freaking long. And it's just, that feels like an edge for us. The pony package, the 11 personnel, get the ball. And I'm not saying like, I don't know that screens, maybe the screen game could work in this one. I don't know, with all those sacks and all that pressure that they bring, maybe this is a game where we do dust off the screen plays and say, okay, we're going to let you rush and we're going to try and take advantage of that and expose it. But time possession, long drives, let's run the ball, because there is a little bit of a vulnerability there in terms of rushing defense. They're going to try and run it on us. And so you might see, whereas last week was more of a pass happy game, I think you're going to see more runs here. But this is the ultimate test. And I think it's going to be close. And I think we can pull out the win. I really do. I think we're going to shock the world. I think Philly is riding high. Or they were riding high until that Hurts injury, dude. I think that Hurts injury really put a dent in their self-esteem and their ego. They're not going to admit it, but I really do think that made some people kind of stand up and take notice, like, okay, maybe things are not going to go as smoothly as we thought. That stadium is going to be raucous. It's going to be wild, and it's going to be intense. And this might be the best playoff game that we've seen between these two ever in a long time. It's going to be hard fought, and it's going to come down the wire. I really do think it's going to come down the wire. I think Philly's favored by like 7. It's like, take the Giants +7, +7.5 for sure. I just don't see us caving in. I think maybe Philly comes out and they frustrate us and we get flustered. Maybe we do get down 7 or 14 at one point in the game, but I think we could just chip away and fight back and make it a ball game and make it close and possibly sneak out a win. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I appreciate you, all 5 of you, more than you know. And we'll talk to you next week after the Giants beat the Eagles. Let's go, Big Blue, baby!